They're 3.5 million pages. That's how many files were just released about Jeffrey Epstein. I spent 72 hours reading them, and what I found, nobody is talking about this. Hello, friends. In 1998, an American man buys an island for about $8 billion. This 75-acre island was part of the United States Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. Its name was Little St. James. From the outside, this private island looked no less than a paradise. Extremely beautiful beaches, crystal clear turquoise waters, lots of lush tropical greenery. In the middle was a palace-like luxury bungalow. All around were luxury guest villas. There were also 2 large swimming pools, a state-of-the-art gym, and a helipad. But inside this paradise, a very dark secret was hidden, such a horrifying truth because of which people living on the nearby islands called this place by a chilling name, Pedophile Island. Here, girls aged 12 to 17 were trafficked and sexually abused. These girls couldn't even run away because there was sea all around. Once a 15-year-old girl tried to swim and escape, but she was caught and her passport was taken away. The most surprising thing is who used to come to this island. Rich people from all over the world, billionaires and famous celebrities. Britain's Prince Andrew, scientist Stephen Hawking, comedian Chris Tucker, former President Bill Clinton. Who knows how many politicians and billionaires came to this island? Lavish parties were organized for them here. But the question is, who owned this island? The answer is one name. Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein once used to teach maths to children in Brooklyn. He was a school teacher, but later in his career, he suddenly became a financial advisor to billionaires. Accumulating wealth of about $600 million, he becomes a multimillionaire. His friends included Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, as well as former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. In today's video, let's find out, friends, the truth behind America's biggest scandal, the whole story of the Epstein files. The hidden crimes begin to surface. What was happening on Epstein Island remained hidden for many years, but in March 2005, a small police complaint became a trigger for this case. In the Palm Beach area of Florida, a 14-year-old girl and her parents filed a complaint at the local police station. The girl said that a classmate took her to a rich man's house. She was told she just had to give a massage and would get $200 to $300 for it. But something else happened there. Epstein meets the girl wearing only a towel, tells her to take off her clothes, and then molests her. When the police asked the first victim if there was any other girl she knew who had gone to Epstein's house, she gave 2 names. When those 2 girls were talked to, 2 more names came forward. The police were surprised to see that this chain was not stopping. As soon as they tracked one victim, 2 more came forward. In just a few months, the Palm Beach police chief had identified 35 victims and dozens more were still being tracked. The most heartbreaking thing was that every girl's story was exactly the same. Everyone was called under the pretext of a massage. Most victims were girls aged 13 to 16 from poor families. Many didn't even have parents, so there was no one to protect them. The police realized this was not a small case. It was a properly organized pyramid scheme. Every girl got extra money for bringing a new girl. Due to this, one girl would bring another and the second would bring the third. Most of these girls were under 18 years of age. The investigation and shocking secret deal. By May 2006, the Palm Beach police had prepared a full case against Epstein. The case was so strong that in July 2006, the FBI also started an investigation named Operation Leap Year. A 53-page report was made. Statements of victims were taken from Florida to New York, New Mexico. Epstein was charged with international sex trafficking. The FBI started investigating in July 2006, and agents expected him to be indicted in May 2007. A prosecutor wrote up a proposed indictment after multiple underage girls told police and the FBI that they had been paid to give Epstein sexualized massages. The draft indicated prosecutors were preparing to charge not just Epstein, but also 3 people who worked for him. According to interview notes, an employee at Epstein's Florida estate told the FBI in 2007 that Epstein once had him buy flowers and deliver them to a student at Royal Palm Beach High School. The employee said some of his duties were fanning $100 bills on a table near Epstein's bed, placing a gun between the mattresses, and cleaning up after Epstein's frequent massages with young girls, including disposing of used condoms. With 36 minor victims, dozens of witnesses, FBI investigation, and such serious charges, Jeffrey Epstein should have rotted in jail for life. But the truth is, friends, something else was going on behind the scenes. Miami's federal attorney Alexander Acosta was making a secret deal with Epstein's lawyers. This deal seemed designed to save Epstein. He just had to plead guilty to 2 minor prostitution charges, and in return, he and his associates were given immunity from all other criminal charges, meaning he could not be prosecuted on any other charge. The most shocking thing about this deal was that it was sealed. No one could even see it. Even the victims were not told about it, whereas according to American law, victims must be informed about any such deal. On June 30th, 2008, Epstein appears in court and pleads guilty to 2 charges. He is sentenced to only 18 months. During this sentence, Epstein was kept in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Jail. He was allowed to go to his luxury office for 12 to 14 hours 6 days a week. This was such a first-class jail that Epstein only went there to sleep at night, and 5 months before his sentence was complete, in July 2009, he is released from jail. All this was possible because of that secret deal, because of Alexander Acosta. Now see the twist in the story. The same Alexander Acosta later becomes the Secretary of Labor in Donald Trump's first government, Epstein's old friend, Julie K. Brown, the journalist who refused to give up. For many years, Epstein continued to live his life normally. He travels in his private jet, throws lavish parties on his island, and meets powerful people. The villain escapes, but there was a journalist who decided she would not let Epstein escape. Julie K. Brown, an investigative journalist working for the Miami Herald newspaper. After Epstein's release in 2009, she closely followed the case. After years of studying this case, in November 2018, she published her report. Not 1, not 2, but a whole series of reports on Epstein's crimes and how the system saved him. Julie named it Perversion of Justice. These reports brought a new explosion in the media. Public anger erupted. Demands for reinvestigation against Epstein began to rise. And under all this pressure, an investigation against Epstein resumed in New York. Julie had identified more than 80 potential victims in her investigation. The evidence was very clear. Therefore, in July 2019, Epstein was arrested once again. This time, direct sex trafficking charges were filed, which could lead to a sentence of up to 45 years. The mysterious death. But then comes the biggest twist in our story. On August 10th, 2019, Epstein is found dead in jail. Officially, the world was told that Epstein had committed suicide using a bed sheet inside his cell. But the circumstances were such that many questions arose. Epstein was locked alone in his cell that night. There was no other prisoner with him. And coincidentally, the jail cameras were not working that night. There were technical problems. Therefore, there is no video footage available showing that Epstein actually did this himself. Due to this, conspiracy theories started spreading that Epstein did not commit suicide but was murdered. Among those spreading these theories, Donald Trump's supporters were at the forefront. Trump himself retweeted a tweet that said, Epstein did not commit suicide but had secret information related to Bill Clinton. Therefore, Bill Clinton had him murdered. Among Trump's supporters, Epstein didn't kill himself became a popular slogan. However, in July 2025, the Department of Justice and FBI concluded that no evidence existed that Epstein kept a client list, blackmailed prominent individuals, or was murdered. The memo affirmed the medical examiner's finding that Epstein died by suicide, but this did little to quell conspiracy theories, Trump's campaign promise, and U-turn. In the 2024 American presidential elections, Donald Trump makes the Epstein files a big issue. He promises that as soon as he becomes president, he will make all of Epstein's files public. Again and again, whenever he was asked in interviews whether he would declassify the Epstein files, Trump replied, "Absolutely, I will." In January 2025, Trump wins the elections again and becomes president of America. Now everyone was waiting for when these Epstein files would be released. Trump's supporters were especially excited. But in July 2025, the Trump government's Justice Department announced that no list of Epstein's clients existed and no files would be released. Then Trump himself took a U-turn. He started calling the Epstein files a boring issue, saying it was a Democratic Party hoax. Trump said the FBI should focus on important issues like voter fraud and should not waste its energy on issues like Epstein. Trump's own supporters started asking why he suddenly went silent. Elon Musk even tweeted that Trump's name is in the Epstein files. That's why these files are not being released. Although Elon later deleted this tweet, the message was clear that even Trump's closest supporters started getting suspicious. The Trump-Epstein connection. When people tried to find out for themselves, some very shocking facts came to light. The old friendship between Trump and Epstein, a very old connection. According to the New York Times, Trump and Epstein were best friends for almost 20 years. This friendship began in the 1980s, and in the 1990s, this friendship deepened so much that both started spending time together in each other's bungalows, offices, at Trump's Plaza Hotel, and casinos. Epstein was seen with Trump at almost every party. According to an ex-employee of Epstein, in the 1990s, Trump and Epstein talked on the phone at least 3 times a week. Many times, Epstein would put Trump on speaker and talk in the office. In this conversation, Trump would boast in front of Epstein about what he did with which woman. According to model Stacey Williams, women were like trophies for Trump and Epstein. Stacey alleged that in 1993, when she was dating Epstein, one day she went to Trump Tower with him. Trump pulled her towards him and touched her inappropriately. Epstein was watching all this happen, and according to Stacey, Epstein liked that he had a model Trump was chasing. According to another victim, in parties where Epstein forced them to have relations with other guests, Trump was also present. Trump also traveled in Epstein's private jets, on which Epstein often sexually abused girls. In 2002, Trump himself said about Epstein that he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Meaning, Trump knew that Epstein liked younger women. Trump also signed a note for Epstein in his book, Trump, The Art of the Comeback. To Jeff, you are the greatest. Because of this friendship, conspiracy theories started coming out that Trump might also be among those whose damaging details are in the Epstein files. And that's why he doesn't want to make all the files public. Congress forces the release. Because of all these things, public pressure increased so much that in November 2025, a bill was introduced in the U.S. Congress which stated that the Justice Department would have to release all of Epstein's files within 30 days. When voting was held in Parliament on this issue, a very rare moment was seen where politicians from both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party supported this bill together. On November 18, 2025, the House passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act in a 427-1 vote, and the Senate unanimously approved it. Therefore, this bill passes despite Trump's unwillingness, and on November 19th, Trump is forced to sign this bill. Some Trump supporters were excited that finally Bill Clinton would be exposed. The December 2025 file releases, but when the deadline of December 19th came, the Justice Department released only a few thousand files. Then, on December 23rd, 300 more documents were released. But these documents were heavily redacted. More than half of the things in them were hidden using a black marker. The partial, heavily redacted release drew bipartisan criticism. Republican Representative Thomas Massey said the partial release grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law. Democratic Representative Robert Garcia also said the incomplete file release was absolutely breaking the law. But still, when people read them in detail, what came out of these files was less about Clinton and more about Donald Trump. Again and again, Donald Trump's name came up in the Epstein files. According to an email, Trump traveled 8 times on Epstein's private plane, the same Trump who always said that he never sat in Epstein's plane. Similarly, in another email sent to a reporter, Epstein wrote that Trump knew about the girls because he had told Maxwell to stop all this. Meaning, according to Epstein, Trump knew what was happening, but he remained silent and did not tell the police. The most shocking revelations. The new revelations are the most shocking. A limousine driver called the FBI in 2020, just before the U.S. presidential elections. This driver told the FBI that in 1995, when he was taking Trump to Teterboro Airport, Trump was talking on the phone to Jeffrey about abusing a girl. According to call records in 1999, when the driver told this to a woman, she became completely silent and then said that Trump and Epstein had raped her. This woman told the driver that some girl had taken her to a fancy hotel or building where she was raped. Besides this, in these Epstein files, there was another document, a letter signed by J. Epstein. The letter was written to sex offender Larry Nassar. It read, "We have one thing in common, our love for young ladies. Our president also loves young girls like us, but we have to eat in jail and he is the president. Life is very unfair." When this letter was written in 2019, Trump was the president of America. However, the FBI subsequently confirmed this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Nassar was fake. The FBI made this conclusion based on the following facts. The writing does not appear to match Epstein's handwriting. It was postmarked in Virginia instead of New York, where Epstein was jailed, and other inconsistencies. And the most interesting thing is that the Justice Department, which should remain neutral as a government body, started behaving like Trump's personal lawyer. These rape allegations were called untrue and sensational. The Trump who was using the Epstein files as an electoral weapon before the elections is now stuck in them himself. The massive January 2026 release. But there's another twist to this whole story, friends. On January 30th, 2026, the Department of Justice published over 3 million additional pages responsive to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. More than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images are included in this massive release. Combined with prior releases, this makes the total production nearly 3.5 million pages. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche announced at a press briefing that these files were collected from 5 primary sources, including the Florida and New York cases against Epstein, the New York case against Maxwell, investigations into Epstein's death, and multiple FBI investigations. More than 500 attorneys and reviewers from the department contributed to this effort. According to the department, redactions were limited to the protection of victims and their families. Notable individuals and politicians were not redacted in the release of any files. What was found in the latest files? The files included thousands of documents involving Epstein's friendship with Britain's Prince Andrew and Epstein's email correspondence with one-time Trump advisor Steve Bannon, New York Giants co-owner Steve Tisch, and other prominent contacts. Investigators found a photo of Trump with Ghislaine Maxwell while examining Steve Bannon's iPhone in June 2021. The email said, "I've been looking through Steve Bannon's iPhone 7 on Celebrite. As I was going through the images from that phone, I found an image of Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell on Bannon's phone. The documents include correspondence between Epstein and billionaire Elon Musk spanning multiple years over a decade ago, mostly centered around coordinating potential travel plans and meetings, including planned visits to Epstein's private Caribbean island. Musk has denied ever visiting the island with Epstein. The latest files include images of an expired Austrian passport featuring a photo of Epstein with a different name. The name on the passport is Marius Robert Fortelny, with Saudi Arabia listed as his residence. Late CBS News anchor Walter Cronkite is pictured several times in the latest batch of Epstein documents. According to flight logs, he traveled with Epstein from Newark, New Jersey to Epstein's private island in St. Thomas in January 2007. The new dump also includes photos of Michael Jackson. In one photo, Jackson appears with Clinton and Diana Ross, an internal FBI document created in August 2019, 5 days after Epstein's death, shows 9 persons listed as family and associates of Epstein, including 8 labeled as co-conspirators, most with their names and faces redacted with the exception of Maxwell and Jean-Luc Brunel. Concerns about victim privacy. However, the release has faced serious criticism for failing to protect victim identities. Attorneys for hundreds of Epstein survivors told the media that names and identifying information of numerous victims appear unredacted in this latest disclosure. "We are getting constant calls from victims because their names, despite them never coming forward being completely unknown to the public, have all just been released for public consumption," attorney Brad Edwards, who has represented Epstein victims for more than 20 years, said. "It's literally thousands of mistakes." Lisa Phillips, who endured years of abuse from Epstein and people in his network, told the media that she believes the Department of Justice was protecting themselves, not the victims. Still more documents to come. All of Epstein's files have not been released yet. The Justice Department said over 1 million more documents potentially related to the Jeffrey Epstein case have been found by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York and FBI. Though the Department of Justice acknowledged that a total of 6 million pages might qualify as files that would have to be released under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, it said the January 30th release would be the final one and that it had met its legal obligations. The documents that have been made public also have a lot of redactions. Black markers have been used, names have been blacked out, dates have been removed, but the Justice Department has not done these redactions properly in many places. There are many such files in which these redacted words can be seen with simple hacks like Photoshop. In many documents, redacted words are visible just by copying them and pasting them into another document. The Clintons agree to testify, February 2026. In the latest development as of February 2026, former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have agreed to appear for depositions later this month in the House's Jeffrey Epstein probe, putting an end to contempt of Congress proceedings against them. After months of back and forth, House Oversight Chair James Comer finally got the Clintons to agree to his terms for closed-door depositions. Hillary Clinton is scheduled to appear on February 26, 2026, and Bill Clinton will appear on February 27, 2026. This will be the first time a former president has been compelled to testify before Congress. The agreement was reached at the 11th hour as the House was gearing up for a vote to hold the Clintons in contempt for defying a congressional subpoena. The Republican-controlled Oversight Committee had advanced criminal contempt of Congress charges last month. 9 of the committee's 21 Democrats joined Republicans in support of the charges against Bill Clinton. 3 Democrats also supported advancing the charges against Hillary Clinton. Once it became clear that we would hold them in contempt, the Clintons completely caved and will appear for transcribed filmed depositions this month, Comer said in a statement. We look forward to questioning the Clintons as part of our investigation into the horrific crimes of Epstein and Maxwell to deliver transparency and accountability for the American people and for survivors. Bill Clinton's relationship with Epstein has reemerged as a focal point for Republicans. Clinton had a well-documented relationship with Epstein in the late 1990s and early 2000s. He has not been accused of wrongdoing in his interactions with the late financier. In his sworn declaration submitted to the committee in January, Bill Clinton said Epstein offered his private plane to the former president in support of the Clinton Foundation's philanthropic work between 2002 and 2003. He denied ever visiting Epstein's private island and maintained that he had not been in contact with Epstein for more than a decade before his 2019 arrest. The Justice Department's latest release of Epstein files offers fresh insights into how the former president's staff communicated with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, including sometimes lewd email exchanges. The release included never-before-seen photos of Bill Clinton and Epstein together and a shirtless Clinton in a hot tub with someone a DOJ official described as a victim of Epstein's sexual abuse. The latest files include frequent communications between Maxwell and Clinton staffers between 2001 and 2004. It was during this period that Bill Clinton traveled with his staffers on Epstein's private plane at least 16 times, according to analysis of the documents. However, there remains uncertainty about whether they will actually appear. This is their 3rd scheduled date for depositions. As Comer noted, this will be their 3rd date that we've given the Clintons, and 3 strikes and you're out. The broader implications. The Epstein case raises fundamental questions about our justice system. How can we claim to have equal justice under law when a wealthy financier receives 18 months in a private jail wing, while ordinary people face decades for lesser crimes? The case exposes what many have long suspected. There are 2 justice systems in America. The involvement of so many prominent individuals also raises questions about elite circles and accountability. For years, powerful men attended Epstein's parties, flew on his plane, and visited his island. Yet they remained silent. This culture of silence enabled Epstein's crimes to continue for decades. No discussion of the Epstein scandal would be complete without examining the role of Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell used her sophisticated charm and social connections to lure young girls into Epstein's web. In December 2021, Maxwell was convicted on 5 counts, including sex trafficking of minors. She was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. While the focus often turns to the famous names connected to Epstein, we must never forget the real story, the victims. These were children, some as young as 12 years old, who were exploited and traumatized. Many victims have bravely come forward despite the trauma and public scrutiny. Women like Virginia Giuffre have fought tirelessly for accountability. What's still hidden? The most important question is what else is hidden in these files. It is claimed that Epstein had evidence against powerful people and also had a complete list of who came to his island. Former employees have mentioned seeing video cameras throughout Epstein's properties. Where are those videos? With time, we will see how many more presidents, prime ministers, billionaires, and princes are involved in this, and how many more names will come out in Epstein's black book. Ghislaine Maxwell, currently serving her sentence, has said she would be willing to testify about others involved in Epstein's operation in exchange for a reduced sentence. Whether prosecutors take her up on this offer remains to be seen. That's all for now, friends. The investigation continues, and the world waits to see what other revelations will emerge from the remaining documents. The story of Jeffrey Epstein and his network of powerful connections remains one of the most disturbing scandals in modern American history, and the quest for truth and justice for his victims continues. The Epstein scandal has exposed the dark underbelly of wealth and power, showing how the rich and connected can sometimes escape justice while their victims suffer in silence. But thanks to brave survivors who spoke out, journalists like Julie K. Brown who refused to let the story die, and public pressure for accountability, the truth is finally coming to light. Whether that truth will lead to justice for all those involved remains to be seen.